Wilson Insurance Services is a full-service independent agency offering coverage you can count on for your farm property, liability, and crop insurance needs. Licensed in Iowa, South Dakota, Minnesota, and Nebraska, they work with multiple carriers that allows them to tailor the coverage for your diverse business needs. They are family-owned and operated, giving you the personal touch needed as your needs change. They'd love to be a part of your operation. Check them out at Wilson Inns, that's WILSONINS.org, or at Facebook, Wilson Insurance, LLC.
We have to learn to dream again. Again, we live in a culture that's told us, do what you can, achieve what you can, but don't dream too big, because if you fail, there's something wrong with you. That is a total cultural lie. We should dream, and failure is part of dreaming. We shouldn't be ashamed by failure. Shame says, I am bad. I failed at something. No, we learn along the way. We've learned how not to do something. Let's recognize our ability to dream again. We absolutely should strive to grow and be better and achieve things we didn't think were possible or that we didn't have time to do.
Ladies and gentlemen, farmers, ranchers, and distinguished guests, thank you for listening to the Farm for Profit podcast, where we discuss the latest ideas, methods, trends, and techniques available to help your farm achieve higher levels of farm profitability. The Farm for Profit podcast is co-hosted by Tanner Winterhoff, the Iowa Bankerman, and David Whitaker, the Iowa Land Guy, where in tandem they will share their ideas and advice from industry experts. Thank you again for listening to the Farm for Profit podcast. Remember, if you aren't farming for profit, you won't be farming for long. And now, here's Tanner and David.
And listeners, welcome back to the Farm for Profit podcast. This is Tanner Winterhoff.
And this is David Whitaker.
Farm for Fun, next show in your queue, Farm for Profit today. So we are here just going to talk about a topic. Fun shows, we talk to a person. I talk to people all the time. I did that again, Dave. The difference between the shows is beer.
Yep.
You learn something in every show. We just don't have beer today.
We just don't have beer today.
That's right.
So this is the front side of the mullet today, and we want to make sure that you as listeners like, rate, review, share. I know we keep repeating this, but it's crucial. It really is crucial to like, rate, and review. Helps us get seen on all the platforms, so you guys helps us grow our podcast. So take time, and everybody sends me one of those, hey, would you review us? But seriously, do it, would you? Get out there, do it. Make sure you share your ideas, farm4profit, LLC at gmail.com. And then, Tanner, tell me who our review is today. As always, not always, we have great partners, and the partner is Gearinghoff. Of course, they have head of the class, no matter the crop, Gearinghoff.
Yes, thanks, Gearinghoff. This comes from Riley T. Garrett on Instagram, so you can leave a review everywhere. Even on Instagram, we'll find you. It just simply says, keep up the good work.
Awesome. Like that review, even if it's short. I appreciate that. And Tanner, we've been doing this for the last couple times. I think this is number 4. We've been doing a little front-end series with Legacy Farmer. Let's see what he's talking about today.
Yeah, you guys have liked these. So here is Jace with Legacy Farmer.
Jace Young here from Legacy Farmer, bringing you another legacy principle for today titled, Don't Make Lifetime Decisions Based Off Other People's Promises. Here's the truth. We've had hundreds of farmers come into Legacy Farmer over the years, all facing a similar problem. What's the problem, you might be wondering? They chose, like most do, to sacrifice their future to move back to the family operation and commit to building and protecting the family legacy. This is what a lot of people do. They get married, have kids, and move their entire family back to the family farm operation. But herein lies the problem. Most farmers move back based on what they are promised. Promises of responsibility, ownership, assets, and a game plan for transitioning the farm operation. Here's the reality. Most farmers move back, work their tails off for decades, and everything that was promised to them never becomes a reality. They sit and wait for years, along with their spouse and children, for this game plan to happen, and it doesn't. How do I know this? Our team at Legacy Farmers had to lead hundreds of farmers and their families out of this exact situation. So here's the lesson for you today. Do not make lifelong decisions based off of what someone says they will do, even if it's your parents. The cost of doing this is more than you can imagine. If it's not in writing, there's a 99.9% chance it's never going to happen. So Take the correct action today and make sure you are making decisions that are in your family's best interest.
Wow, that was powerful. That's not what I was expecting, Dave.
I don't know. I like immediately when I heard that on the front side, I don't know if this is good for the podcast or bad for the podcast, so cut it out if it's not. Don't make life decisions on other people's promises. What does every married couple in the world do?
Base their marriage on a promise.
Base a life decision.
Yeah.
A life decision to get married or not, or spend the rest of my life with someone based on other people's promises.
Which is why there's the cliche of being married to the farm gets used.
I don't know. I like it.
But think about this in the form of the royal family. You know, we're recording this in September. Mm-hmm. The Queen just died. Prince Charles, now King Charles, is 73 and is just now taking over the power to the throne. There's discussions right now that for him to abdicate Prince Henry. That says work for 2 years till you're 75, which is when the parliament, apparently in parliament, you can't serve past 75.
Okay.
And then abdicate the throne to the next generation so they can rule in their prime rather than that of being old and washed up.
All I know of what he said, Legacy Farmer, he said, if it isn't written down, it didn't happen.
Yeah.
So I'm going to advocate that if you're going to make a life decision, make sure it's written down, the promise.
Another good...
I guess we do sign marriage certificates. Is that written down? Right. I didn't promise that I'd wash her feet or anything, though.
No, but you shouldn't have promised that anyway. That's gross. But yes, Jace, Legacy Farmer. Go to legacyfarmer.org if you want to be a part of what he's got going on over there. We thank him again for these powerful, thought-provoking segments, and we'll keep bringing them to you guys since that's something you enjoy listening to. So let's jump into our topic for today and a guest that I am excited to introduce to you.
Ready to stop making and losing the same $100 on a calf? Balance Forward is a cattle feeding management company that wants to create opportunities for mid-market cattlemen tied to the land in the upper Midwest who share the same vision and values. The success of Balance Forward stems from their ability to take what they have learned firsthand and apply it transparently to your business. Balance Forward takes a unique approach on managing the overall inventory for your client on cattle, corn, and feed.
Their consultative services, known as the Cattle Business Systems, is designed to help cattlemen with all aspects of their business, from corn procurement, buying feeder cattle, to internal position management. Cattle Business Systems will work with you to develop a customized plan to help your business grow and will continue to be a resource for you month after month. If you're ready for your cattle business to reach its highest potential, give Balance Forward a call at 712-785-3766 or visit www.balanceforward.com. That is BALANCE 4WARD.com. Dave, this is a fun one for me. I'm excited to introduce our guest today, Ashley Lance. She grew right up down the road from us here in Ankeny, Iowa. She graduated in 2016 with a Bachelor of Science in Psychology from the University of... doesn't matter.
Oh, it doesn't matter.
I'm in cyclone territory.
She and her husband, Tyler, have a newborn baby. Well,
yes.
How old would he be now?
He's 8 months old now.
Yes.
I know, he's crawling and it's crazy.
She graduated in 2020 as an ordained Lutheran pastor, and in October 2000, as the Lutheran pastor in October of 2020. She enjoys traveling, reading, being outside, spending time with her family and friends, and being a podcast guest.
Yeah, anytime.
Obviously, she's got a English setter as a puppy.
Yes.
How old is Scout?
Scout's he'll be 5 in December, and he's amazing, but also he is a lot of work.
That's great. And most importantly, Dave, she's passionate about teaching others, and that's what she's here to do today, because we're taking a little bit different approach to this Farm for Profit episode. We don't normally, what do you call it? A theory? You call it a mindset. This isn't a balance sheet item. This isn't a profit and loss statement. This is not something of material that you can identify a value. We're going to talk about scarcity mindset. Do you know, Dave, what is the scarcity mindset?
I don't know 100% what the scarcity mindset is, but a way of running your business slash farm for in our neck of the woods is the way I'd guess it to be.
So when you think it is a way to run your farm, when you think of scarcity, obviously that doesn't mean a lot of. That means it's pretty hard to find.
Yeah, we had that other gentleman on that said farm like there's no insurance behind it. I think that's just setting a mindset that we're going to make it no matter what. We're going to make it by doing this. We're going to make it, etc., or not make it, or change these rules or do something. So that might allude into it, but I still don't know. But I'm sure we're going to get into it.
We are. So Ashley, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
So we told the listeners just a little bit about you. What else would you like to add to your introduction?
Gosh, I mean, I am a Hawkeye hanging out in Huxley, Iowa today. So thanks for welcoming me here. No, I think that about covers it. Yeah, I love being a Lutheran pastor. It really is my calling. I didn't know that's what I was going to do with my life until a couple years ago. And,
Gotcha.
It's been a huge blessing. I grew up at Lutheran Church of Hope, and it's fun to come full circle and hang out there now.
You don't see very many female pastors, Dave.
I've seen a handful, but yeah, not very many.
It's almost like the same number of females involved in agriculture.
Probably less.
Oh, you think?
I think a lot less.
Yeah.
I think there's more females in agriculture than you know, and there's very few, I'm going to say, pastors.
Yeah.
There you go.
So do you have any tie to agriculture to start with?
Very, very little. I have family in Knoxville, Iowa, that farm. And so my dad grew up hanging out with that side of his family and farming, but he grew up in Ankeny. So I have no immediate family that farms. I did, however, grow up going to county fairs. What county is Knoxville in? Anyway.
That's a good question. Auctioneer?
I should know this.
I should know it too. It's Jasper. It's south of Jasper.
It's not Jasper. There's another town in Iowa that is the name of the county of Knoxville, because I always get them confused. Anywho, I grew up going to the county fair. Marion County. Thank you. Not
Power
Marion
of
the
Google.
town. I grew up going to the Marion County Fair, watching my cousins show cattle.
Yep.
And I thought that's what the state fair was. I thought there was only cows and cattle at the state fair. I didn't know there was a Midway until I was in high school, and my friends were like, we hang out at the fair. And I was like, why do you go to the cattle barn? And they were like, there's a cattle barn at the fair. That is my knowledge of farming. That's literally all I know.
Gotcha. So listeners, you know where you're coming from here. Well, we know what a cow and we know what a combine is. So
that's the difference for this show. So we are looking at this, and the scarcity mindset, which I'm going to have you define for our listeners actually here in just a minute, is something that, as I heard you preach on this, and that's not what I don't want to turn any listeners away that feel like we're going to go into a sermon. That's not the point of today's show. Now, there will be a lot of faith-based comments, but this is something that, as I was hearing it during your sermon, I went, oh, crap. This is me. So we'll see if any of our listeners can think the same thing. So what to you is a scarcity mindset?
Yes, a scarcity mindset. It's kind of how our culture operates, really. It's walking into every single day thinking, I don't have enough of, fill in the blank, and worrying about those things, stressing about those things, overly planning about those things, letting them become so prevalent in your life that we actually forget to be grateful for all of the things that we do have. We actually forget the list of the really good stuff that is happening in our lives because we're so narrowly focused on maybe what we don't have or where our goals haven't been attained instead of the things that we do have.
Yeah, and that hits home, and I'm going to help relate, at least in my personal life. I will share as we go through this episode where that hits me. But I have a feeling a couple of our listeners right now are going, because that is, culturally, we either want more.
Yes.
Or we're afraid we're not going to be able to get it anymore. I mean, go back to the toilet paper scare.
Yes, of COVID.
Of COVID.
Uh-huh.
That was scare. That has scarcity mindset written
all over it. The people literally didn't have it, and the people who did hoarded it for fear of not having it.
What's in your what Dave? Dave's got this look on his face, and I love it.
All I could think of the whole time was the hymn. For those that you don't know what you might sing at church. Count your many blessings, name them one by one. I don't know if you've ever heard of that. That's what I was thinking. I don't have enough, but count your many blessings every day. We see a lot of people on TikTok or out there that want more all the time. And they're like, my combine's not big enough. Mine's this. But hey, I'm making it and I'm still not belly up, and there's a lot of guys that are still trying.
Why do you think people listen to our podcast?
I know, right?
We're more farm for profit. We're helping farmers achieve more profit because there's a fear that there might not be a profitable tomorrow. And,
Right.
and in agriculture, that's a legit cycle that happens to where there are less profitable years.
Right.
But the goal of this episode is to help you not become depressed, feel bad about the years where it is less profitable, or you have less crop, or you have less calves that live through the winter. Whichever it is, this is a real mindset. But we need to first, before we get too deep into this, is there's got to be an opposite.
Yes.
So what's the opposite of this scarcity mindset?
Yep. It's called an abundant mindset. An abundant mindset is waking up every day saying, wow, I'm so grateful for list the things that we do have. I'm grateful that I have a family that is healthy. I'm grateful that I have a farm that is making it. I'm grateful, fill in the blank. That leads to changes in our mindset. We can rewire our brain when we think in terms of gratitude instead of in terms of scarcity. It doesn't mean that we still don't want to grow or we could be worried about a potential non-profitable year. Those are still a reality. And at the same time, we hold that intention with, I'm actually really grateful for all of the things that are happening in my life right now.
So how do we make the line, or I'm going to crucify this word, differentiate? If I can say that. How do we do that between competitiveness and eagerness and
Yes.
I'm here to kick butt and take names versus I want more?
Good question. One of those is driven by a desire to improve self. And I think another one is driven by fear. Some of us have personalities that are competitive and eager, and that is not a bad thing. When that begins to steal our calling in life, when it begins to steal joy or happiness, that is then coming from a place of fear.
Because Tanner, I'm thinking I've had a good year this year in my business, but man, all my competition did better than I did, and they're still kicking butt and take. I mean, we had a great year, but I still am hungry to get the next deal. But it's just a goal. Next year, I'd like to do 2x. Next year, I'd like to do 3x.
Right, but I would say that that's not the scarcity mindset.
Right.
That's a competitive mindset. I would say the conversation that we had this morning, based around something else you could do to protect the future, your retirement, you're looking at that as I've got this today, but it might not be here tomorrow.
Yep.
That's the scarcity mindset. Because
Right.
I don't know if I caught that comment during your sermon, or at least caught the comparison, because that made me sit back and think that, okay, maybe not everything I was viewing as a scarcity mindset in my life is, and some of it's driven by competitiveness, personal growth, personal development, and not for fear that it won't be here tomorrow. And Dave, I'm going to start off with the podcast. The best thing that I can relate to our listeners is what we're doing right here. We started with 0 listeners.
Yeah.
And now we have a thriving podcast that people want to be guests on, that people want to advertise on, that people want to come and meet us in a public setting. And it's not for fear that it won't be here next week that we try hard. It's because we want to do better and be more competitive. So it's not a scarcity thing that we put as much effort into the podcast as we do. But I do think there's a little bit of an element, at least for me personally, that if I don't prepare an outline, if I don't prepare show notes for Dave and Corey,
A fear that we won't go off without a hitch. Yeah.
right, we won't have a show
Right.
that performs
Right.
as well. I know we
See,
can edit it. I know we can do all
Now,
the
you're on the wrong
show.
side to go. See, you're on the fearful side. I'm on the faith side. I am faithful that you are going to bring a template every time.
Yes.
And
You have an abundant mindset about the
I
podcast.
guarantee that we can pull it out of our backside. If not,
That's true.
Because I just know I can talk for days and we can have a podcast. Guaranteed.
Yes.
No, that's-
That's different personality speaking too, right?
And when we think of farmers, they're not all type A. So very introverted. They think to themselves, very educated, but probably keep their thoughts to themselves. And, they listen to what everybody else does. So they're tearing themselves apart inside their brain probably rather than voicing it out loud.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah.
Which is a good point. You look at the practices in agriculture, and so many things are done to mitigate what can't be controlled. Farmers
Right.
will install drain tile in their fields to get water off the field as fast as possible in case of torrential downpours
Yep.
or a wet spring. They will, where they can, put up irrigation systems or drip irrigation
it doesn't rain.
In case it doesn't rain.
Right.
Livestock, there's uses of vaccinations. There's confinements instead of leaving them out on the range. Farmers are mitigating as much risk as possible, but that's okay.
Right. Yes. We're talking about the difference between being faithful and being foolish. We walk this tension all the time too. I'm going to take steps to be faithful in my farming business, as I know that to be, versus I'm just going to let it happen the way that's going to happen. That could be considered foolish. There are steps you can take to have a better year, and you might implement those things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So in culture right now,
Yes.
you shared a quote during church.
Yes.
Tell these listeners what that quote was.
Yes, this is a quote from Brené Brown, and she has a podcast. She's a PhD researcher. She studies emotions, shame, grief. She's really, really fascinating. This is from one of her podcasts right as COVID was happening. She says, "You can tell a culture is deeply in scarcity when the conversation at a cultural level revolves around what should I be afraid of right now and whose fault is it?"
Does that ring a bell, Dave? When you think agriculture, do you see that?
I don't know. Farmers are resilient. I think half. I think it's almost 50-50. I know farmers on one side, they're like, oh, it didn't rain, and the seed cost too much, and doggone, fertilizer costs are up and they're killing us. Farmland prices are high. They have the negative attitude. But I know other farmers that are out there like, man, we could kill it this year if we implement this, and that. And I got a couple guys that they're trying to expand, and they're kicking butt and taking names.
So when you think about that differentiating right now in your mind, and you divide them both into categories, to your outside perception, which ones are the most successful?
the ones that run it like a business, not with emotion.
So the ones that are looking at it as, what could we do to increase the abundance or have an abundant outlook?
I mean, I had one guy who bought a farm from me, and he says, Dave, I'll never see this thing pay for it. Well, that doesn't make sense. That's not profitable. He says, but I am building generational wealth for my family for the future. He was positive about a negative scenario.
Sure. He had an abundant mindset.
That's right.
Yeah.
So when you think about that as far as human emotion goes, because we've got listeners that for some reason, every time we meet them, they just seem down.
Yeah.
They could be this could be the highlight of their day. They got to come meet the guys on Farm for Profit. They got to meet the guests that we were hanging out with, and you just can't get a rise
Yes.
out of them. So what does a scarcity mindset do to human emotion?
Yep. A scarcity mindset kind of starts with fear. Fear leads us to anxiety, worry, poor choices, and then negative outcomes. It's a very negative loop when you look at it. When we live in a scarcity mindset, we do see this culturally. We fear not having enough time, not having enough money, not having fill in the blank. That leads to worry every single day. You meet the worried people and they're down. Even if it's a great day, they're constantly worried. You almost see the weight of the world on them. Contrasting with a scarcity mindset, fear, anxiety, poor choices, negative outcomes, is the abundant loop. An abundance loop starts with gratitude. Gratitude leads to peace of mind. Peace of mind leads to wise choices and positive outcomes. People who have an abundant mindset could be going through the exact same thing. Dave, you were just talking about this. Could be going through the exact same thing as somebody in a scarcity mindset, but they're looking at it with a positive outcome in mind. They're looking at it with gratitude of what they do have instead of fear or worry about what they don't.
And so much of farming revolves around income. And somebody else is determining what the price of corn is. So I don't get to make the decision on how much, or I get to when to sell it. I get to make that decision, but not how much they'll give me. Sure. I don't get to make the decision when it rains. So there's a lot of unknowns. I don't get to make the decision when something breaks down and what it costs to fix it and what new equipment costs. I don't get to make the decision of what new seed and new fertilizer and why foreign conflicts will affect that price. So there's a lot of negatives in farming that could give people a depression state, Tanner, or a scarcity mindset.
Do you see that Ashley, in the congregation that you serve and just your understanding of the scarcity mindset, is depression come more often to those that have a scarcity mindset?
Wholeheartedly, I would say yes. When I care for people, often they will sit in my office and immediately they will list everything that's going wrong in their life. And that's what I'm here for. I listen to that. But the second they're done with that list, I ask them to tell me one or two things that are going right. Mm-hmm. And in that moment, their mindset has just shifted from scarcity to abundance. The things that are going right don't diminish the things that are hard that we're going to sit and talk about. But in that split second, you have informed them without informing them that actually it's not as bad as they think it is. That I'm going to listen and empathize and care for them as best as I can. And they still have things to be really, really grateful for.
That's hard to do, though.
It's really hard.
It's
especially when we live in a culture that tells us it's normal to live in a scarcity mindset. It's normal to worry about finances. It's normal to worry about tomorrow. It's normal to worry about sending my 8-month-old to college.
right. That's actually a very valid point. Well,
Yeah.
We're setting up college savings accounts when they're born.
We
Yep.
are.
As soon as we get Social Security numbers.
Mm-hmm.
I've always wondered how I can do this. Is I wanted to bottle up positive attitude and sell it, but I don't know how we can do that. So how do we bottle up the abundance mindset, or how do we tell our listeners to have an abundant mindset?
Yeah.
Yeah, because I see it. The observations that I have in agriculture, either through customers, through prospects, or friends that we have as listeners of this podcast, is I'm going to say it's probably 50-50 like you described to begin with. But there are some that complain a lot. Mm-hmm. And that's not because of scarcity mindset. Mm-hmm. But when you listen to some of the complaints, and it's a fear, especially around the topic that I hear is land control. Mm-hmm. Oh, I just don't know if I could ever afford to buy a farm, or I just don't know if cash rent is going to go up. Those are legit concerns, and those are fine. Mm-hmm. But when it turns into a conversation about the neighbor, or the way somebody else is farming,
right,
or what type of task it's going to take for you to expand your operation, that's when it shifts more, in my opinion, into a scarcity mindset. It's the fear of not being able to farm anymore.
Yes, correct.
Rather than I'm going to take steps to try and control the land cost for my operation. Mm-hmm. And that kind of the same thing with livestock, is livestock takes space. Either it's a building or a pasture or whichever it is. And it's fine to plan ahead to make sure that the future of your operation is good to go.
That's faithful.
Yep. But not to live in scarcity and have such a negative attitude around cities expanding.
Mm-hmm. Yes. A scarcity mindset can steal joy. As believers, not every listener is perhaps a believer, but I want everyone to know joy. When our joy becomes stolen, that's a good red flag that we're perhaps in a scarcity mindset, that we should perhaps be looking at things with an abundance mindset, or shift our focus to an abundance mindset. We should all experience joy every single day. Not happiness. Happiness is fleeting. It comes and goes. Joy is a deep-seated, I'm so grateful that I woke up this morning and took a breath, and I'm going to live my day in that headspace.
Let me expand on it. She said something a little bit ago. Ashley said gratitude. Mm-hmm. So let me take it the farmer ways. So I get the opportunity to sell farmland, and when I do, oftentimes we're kicking a tenant off the property.
Oh, sure.
So they're losing farmland. Mm-hmm. Okay. There's two attitudes you could have when you lose farmland. One is, this is horrible, this sucks, this is bad. One is appreciative of gratitude that I was able to farm that farm for the last 20 years with this family. They decided to sell it, et cetera, et cetera. I told you this morning, Tanner, and I don't know the quote, but, no good deed goes unrewarded. Is that what it says?
The way you're saying it is no good deed goes unpunished.
Yeah.
But it's the way you're using it in context is when you do good for someone else, you usually have good karma.
Good karma on the other side.
Back,
so I've had the opportunity lately to where we took on farm management, and one of the guys who I sold a farm out from underneath him, but he had a gratitude, positive attitude is what he had. Mm-hmm. Well, no, I don't get to farm that one this year. I'm sure another one will come along. Well, he helped me with other stuff, and I think I don't know if he'll be the one, but I'm considering him.
He's going to have an opportunity.
He's got an opportunity to farm this farm that came up for farm management.
So are we just talking the difference between a positive attitude and a negative attitude? Or is it deeper than that?
I think it's deeper than that.
Okay.
Yes. I think we're talking like what we're actually seeing in humankind in our culture. We tend to live as if a really good example in my line of work is busyness. People are so busy. A good example, student ministry just kicked off. We have so many conflicts on Wednesday nights with students, and students will tell you, I'm so busy, I don't have time to come to church. That is a scarcity mindset, busyness generally. We all have the exact same amount of time in a day. Every single one of us gets 24 hours. What we do with that time is entirely up to us. So busyness is actually just a scarcity mindset when it comes to time. That's not necessarily a negative attitude. That's just the reality of our
Told
culture.
Tanner this about working out this morning. The people that work out scheduled time. I don't have any time to work out. I'm telling you, no. But the people that do, they make time.
But it's the
Yes,
it's the
yes.
attitude around it is
Correct.
that they want to be there.
Right.
It's not a chore. It's not a have to.
Yep.
They're thankful that they are physically able to be able to go
Yeah.
and perform that.
Yeah.
I got a question that we didn't previously even give you time to prepare for.
That's okay.
The conversations that you've had, can scarcity mindset be triggered or be flipped into happening because of past trauma?
Ooh, interesting. I would love to see what Brené Brown has to say about that in her research. Off the top of my head, honestly, probably.
I mean, I'm thinking of, like Dave mentioned with that client of his, a farm gets sold out from underneath you, or it happens in a not good situation, and that's a traumatic event. You get fired
Yeah.
from a job.
Absolutely.
Now you go to work every day thinking, oof, is my key going to open the door this morning?
See, I go back to attitude. That's either you can have a positive attitude and see the silver lining or not. But as Ashley's saying, is it a larger global trend rather than have we changed the way that we do rather than just attitude?
Yeah. And Dave, negative attitude, if you live in a negative attitude space for long enough, you now have a scarcity mindset. I think they directly tie into one another.
I used to not swear. Never once have I ever heard my dad swear. Ever. And I went to work with guys that swear. I'm telling you, you do what's around the people that
Yes,
you're around.
absolutely.
Right, wrong, or indifferent, but I can swear with the best.
I wondered where you
now.
I wondered where you were going with that. I was afraid you were going to say that came from me.
But my dad, I've never to this day heard him swear.
See, and that's impressive.
Ever.
That's
That's unheard of. I don't know.
that's a decision that he made.
Yeah.
And a mindset that he put into place.
Our brains become wired from the people we hang out with, from the culture that we hang out in. So if we hang out in a negative attitude space, that wires our brain to think scarcely, and vice versa. If we hang out in a positive attitude space, that wires our brain to think abundantly.
So how do we?
Yeah,
faith.
You know where I was going to go.
No,
to.
I don't. Where are you going?
Well,
Go.
we're 25 minutes into the conversation, and we've been criticized before from our listeners, our lovely
On how to
listeners,
fix it?
on providing solutions.
Well, there we go.
Sure.
And that's where you're
Yeah,
headed.
I was heading that direction. Is how do we? What I'm hearing is the people that don't have a scarcity mindset have faith, not like faith in Jesus. I'm talking
Right.
faith that it's going to be good. Faith
Right,
in
faith in
something,
something better.
Something better.
Yep.
That's what they have faith in.
Yep.
How, or is that a taught? Now I'm wondering, is this sociologically? That's a word. I'm sure it is. I made it. Sociologically, faith. Are people born with like that? They're faithful that it's going to work out, or are they? Is this a learned attribute? Like, your parents like they were always worried, so now I'm always worried. What's your thought?
You're talking about nature versus nurture. I have
Yeah.
a psychology degree, so that gives me just enough
Well, I do
information
too.
to be,
I
to
mean,
be slightly
you're right.
dangerous.
So-
Yes, nature versus nurture. I think it's both. You grow up in, for example, my dad is a high school math teacher. He has been, he retired. He's been retired for a year, and he actually just went back to the math classroom. So he's like semi-retired. But he used to give positive attitude points. If his students saw him in a hallway and would say, "Hey, Pete, it's a great day. Hey, Pete, I love math." He would literally give them extra credit in his class for having a positive attitude. That's part of growing up. That's nurture, right? Like, and I think some people are wired to be more faithful. If we're talking about spiritual gifts, faith is an actual spiritual gift. There are some people who are just born with the gift of faith. They just know there is something greater. They can't explain it. Certainly they have doubts, but it is so deeply rooted in who they are. So I think it's both.
I had to answer the joke that I saw on TikTok this morning about Common Core math. Since your dad's a math teacher, and they're comedian's frustrated dealing with helping his daughter do math homework and learning new Common Core, and he goes, "What was wrong with the old math? It wasn't like people were going in there and getting the wrong change. They weren't getting the wrong answers. The old math worked just fine. And even when you do Common Core math, there's still old math in the back door." He goes, "If it's like you coming to the front door of my house and saying, 'Hey, can I come in?' And you're like, 'Yes, but I need you to walk around through the gate, through the back door, come here, and then meet me right back here again.' And you go, 'Oh, well, is there something wrong with your front door?' Well, no.
No,
This is just a new way that people are doing this. It's like Common Core math. Yes. Sorry, that's the banker frustration.
How did I see?
So weird.
I didn't see the squirrel today. Like you took us down. You took us like there was like 18 squirrels over there or something.
Yep.
All right,
Okay,
back to taking action. We need to take action for our listeners on how do we begin to shift our mindset from scarcity. We're wording that as is scarce. Wait. I got to back up. Is scarcity bad first? We have to determine, is scarcity bad or is it good? Because I was about to say from a bad habit of being scarcity to a good habit of abundance. But I don't know if we've determined which one's bad and which one's good. What's your thoughts?
I think if scarcity is stealing joy from someone, if it is leading to a life that is characterized by anxiety, always worried, depression, always sad, if scarcity is stealing the greater grandness of all the good things, then it is a bad thing.
And probably vice versa. Too much abundance
Right.
could also be bad.
Yes. If our focus is on always getting more, that's greed. That's not really abundant.
Right.
Our focus should be on
Cross the
gratitude.
threshold.
Yes.
Yep. That's good. So what do you say? So we've now talked through this. We have listeners that have identified themselves and other people in their lives because they're thinking of that person, whether they're always generous, grateful, or they're the opposite. How do we switch from a scarcity mindset to abundance?
Yep. First and foremost, gratitude. Focus on what you have. In theological circles, we talk about gratitude journals. We talk about writing down every single day the things that you are thankful for. You don't have to be a believer to do that. Every single one of us can wake up every morning and say, I am grateful for, and list 5 things. I encourage people to write it down. So that way when you're having a bad day, you can go back and say, I wrote down 5 things that are actually going well in my life today.
It started well. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So focus on what you have. Surround yourself with people who are thinking abundantly. We become, I think the research shows we become like the 5 people we hang out with the most.
That's scary.
That's really scary for some people.
Yeah.
If you become
Sitting next to Dave.
Is that why I'm getting fatter? I knew that's why. Becoming like Corey.
I don't,
Just kidding,
I don't know
Corey.
Corey.
Wait
If
till
you're
he hears
listening,
it,
Corey,
yeah.
don't worry about it. You'll be all right.
Yeah, take a hard look. I mean, it's good. Take a good hard look at the people we hang out with. If you don't want to be like them, I would encourage people, don't cut them out of your life, but perhaps draw healthy boundaries around people you don't want to become like. We also have the opportunity to set the temperature of a room, to be the thermostat instead of a thermometer. Often we just adapt to the people next to us like a thermometer does. We can set the temperature. You can be the change in your circle. If you're like, yes, I want abundance, and I want to be thankful, and I want the people around me to do that, more power to you. Please set the temperature in those rooms.
Wow. I've already written down more in this episode than I think I have in the last couple that we've recorded. And I hope our listeners, it's hard to listen to a podcast going down the road and take notes at the same time. So this might be one that they get to listen to more than once.
Yeah.
So we start off focusing on the good.
Yep.
Making sure you surround yourself with good people. And it's almost take a leadership stance.
Yes.
That if
Please
if you don't like the attitude,
Yep.
or you don't like the temperature of the room,
Yep.
step up and start to change it.
Be the change. Yeah.
And I've got an example for that I'll share as we get to the end. What else do you think?
Yep. We can create win-win situations. That is, scarcity mindset would say there's not enough time for me to do church on Wednesday night and do my sporting event. How do we adjust one of those schedules to do both? That's the example that I deal with all the time.
Right.
Someone looks at me and says, that's when dance is. I say, well, do you switch dance classes? Do you switch dance studios? Neither of those are great, but you can still do dance.
Yep.
Or do you come to a different time of group at church? You won't be in the same grade group,
Sure.
but you'll still hear the same thing. Let's
Yep.
create win-win situations rather than a win-lose or lose-lose situation.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah. We talked about gratitude in your daily life. Gratitude journal is a big deal.
Yeah.
Be grateful every day. Train your mind to recognize possibilities. That's a good one.
How do you do that? What does that mean?
Yeah, wait, back up. Recognize possibilities.
Yes.
This is the what if. What if we made another
Dreaming.
$1 million a year?
This is dreaming.
Yeah. What if we went to 2 shows a week?
Ooh.
We did.
We did. But that was us exercising
Possibilities.
the possibility.
God, it's going to take so much more time.
I feel like we live in a world that's forgotten how to dream. You know?
I mean, let's just break this scenario down, because that happened. We had listeners asking us to do more.
Yeah.
And we all have jobs.
Right. Families.
We all have families.
Yep.
And we all have the same amount of time that we said we didn't have. And now, since the 1st of June, we've done 2 shows a week.
And is it fun? Or do you feel very negative about those episodes?
I got to make fun of Corey, so it was very fun.
See, you found time.
So to me, it's more fun.
Yes.
Because I knew the long list of people that wanted on the show and that we wanted to have on the show and the topics. I mean, to think about this situation right now. When did you give this sermon?
July? Yeah.
We're recording this now in September, the middle of September. It's not going to come out until October. But had we not gone to 2 shows a week, we would have been doing this content every other week, which means our listeners might not have gotten to hear your message until 2023.
Right.
So that to me was a big win that I didn't expect, and it feels really good.
Yeah.
There's extra work.
Right.
So
it does take more time.
We've involved extra people. So now we have a bigger team that's putting this together. But how is that? How are we to train our brain to recognize possibilities?
We have to learn to dream again. Again, we live in a culture that's told us, do what you can, achieve what you can, but don't dream too big, because if you fail, there's something wrong with you. That is a total cultural lie. We should dream, and failure is part of dreaming. We shouldn't be ashamed by failure. Shame says, I am bad. I failed at something. No, we learn along the way. We've learned how not to do something. Let's recognize our ability to dream again. We absolutely should strive to grow and be better and achieve things we didn't think were possible or that we didn't have time to do. If that feels very exciting to someone, absolutely they should pursue it.
Let's take this farming route for a second. Dreaming. What are we dreaming of? New X9 combine? Like this is a Twitter poll right here. What are you dreaming of as a farmer? Like what would I've made it be, like 5,000 acres?
But that's it.
Is it like when is enough's enough? Or do we have the abundance mindset and say we're there? I got healthy family, healthy kids, healthy, etc. Or are we still dreaming about that new X9 $1 million combine?
Can you have both without being greedy?
I think you can.
Yes.
And to an extent, it's going to look different for so many other people.
Yes.
Because I've got customers that don't want thousands of acres and an X9 combine. They either don't want debt that comes along with potentially larger acquisitions. They don't want the stress of one decision, such as marketing my crop, is such a larger ripple effect because there's more bushels, more acres. You know, if I go with the wrong hybrid, but I planted it on 1,000 acres, is a lot more of a penalty than if I planted it on 300 acres.
Right.
And then you flip it to where there are some that's what they enjoy. They thrive in high pressure situations. And to them, the success and the feeling of reward at the end of the day allows them to be in their happy spot.
So do you think, I was just thinking the word calculated risk. So which mindset is calculated risk?
I don't think it's either.
Like I'm going to spend money and I'm kind of worried about spending that much money, but I think the outcome will be good on the backside.
See, I don't think that's either. When you calculate risk, you can do that in either mindset. Abundant is, all right, I believe this investment is going to work, and just in case it doesn't, I'm going to take this much protection, or I'm only going to invest in a portion of it. Scarcity is, okay, this could fail. It's going to fail. I mean, scarcity mindset is going to fail.
This is going to fail.
So I'm
This is
going
a bad decision.
Yep, I'm going to protect myself this way.
Right.
I got to do it anyway. I don't want to do it.
And I'm going to have anxiety about it. I'm not going
Right.
to sleep for the next week because
So
I
I
made
think
that
you can
decision.
do it out of both mindsets.
Gotcha.
So when you think about your business, obviously I'm not asking you to air your dirty laundry, Dave, but as I look from the outside in on a real estate business, the scarcity mindset, someone who has a scarcity mindset is always in fear that there will never be another farm to sell. And because of that, stays awake all night, making phone calls, writing letters, attending events, never seeing their family for fear that you won't have anything to make money on next year.
And I think that's how any entrepreneur starts, is hustle. Hashtag hustle, even if you are affecting the family.
But is it because of fear?
Somewhat, yeah. Wholeheartedly. Because we in our society want to be successful, and we in our society have bills to pay and obligations and house payments and truck payments and kids to feed, etc. So as the breadwinner owning a business, you have that scarcity mindset. Man, is there enough jobs coming in the pipeline?
Can I challenge that?
Sure.
I think that's where culture needs to shift. Certainly, entrepreneurs enter with risk.
Yep.
Because it's on you to make this successful.
Yep.
But if we do that in a scarcity mindset, now we start to lose joy. We start to lose gratitude. We start to lose the good things. If we do that with an abundant mindset, I'm not saying it's not hard and there's not a lot of work that goes into it. But if we can do that exact same thing with an abundant mindset, I'm working my tail off because I know the benefits that succeeding in this business will have for me and my family. Not out of fear, out of joy. I love what I'm doing. I love bringing my family along. I love working hard. Sounds a lot different than if I don't do this well, my family doesn't eat.
And when she said that, you think of these entrepreneurs, and the most successful ones are passionate.
They're doing it from joy.
Yeah, they started
fear.
it. They started it. Yeah, sure. They'll tell you they didn't want to work for the man anymore.
Yeah.
But it all spun off of originally something like this podcast. We were passionate about, we still are, passionate about educating our listeners. We want to have fun while we do it. But that passion is what's driving.
Tanner's always said this. The day that this becomes work and it's no fun for you guys anymore, tell me.
Yes.
He says that all the time.
Right.
Says, tell me, because it is, for you listeners, there's a lot of work that goes into a podcast. If you're thinking of starting one, let me tell you what, everybody's got a doggone podcast.
That is true.
But here's the deal, it is a lot of work, and Tanner's most of the work there. But us as his partners, co-hosts, the second that if it's more his passion and not ours, the second it's not your passion anymore and you got other stuff that you need to address, tell us. But that's been the rule from the start.
Yeah.
It won't work. You'll know right away when our personalities aren't clicking.
Yeah.
Yep.
When we don't feel comfortable making fun of Corey when he's not here.
And I've had partnerships dissolve, not my partnerships, but I'm saying I've seen partnerships dissolve because one person was still passionate about running the business and the other one was like, I'm going on vacation.
So
they're not.
And I'm a little frustrated with myself right now because it took 40 minutes for me to challenge the original mindset behind putting this show together. Because I would say a lot of agriculture, I was thinking we're going to have a large portion of our listeners that are in a scarcity mindset. Now I'm going to change my synopsis, my guess that there aren't as many as I was expecting. They'll probably have little inklings of I could do this better.
Yep.
But farmers are some of the most faithful people. They breed a cow in the hopes
that they'll
get a live calf.
Yeah.
Yes.
That live calf will stay healthy and grow to market weight or whenever they're going to sell it. They're putting a seed in the ground, doing everything that they can correctly, hoping that they get the rain if they don't have
I was going to say, Iowa farmers pray more than anybody I know because they're faithful. They get the rain.
And that's an abundant knowing that every year they go about this, whether the results of the last year were good or bad, for the most part with an abundant mindset and hopeful that there's going to be a bigger crop.
So let's go back I on your outline here. That's fantastic. Fear, anxiety, and poor choices. So you as a banker have seen people make poor choices. I, as a real estate agent, have seen people make poor choices and maybe not sell when they should have or something there. Are they making a poor choice because they have a scarcity mindset? Is that what we're getting at here? They're just so worried about the future that they don't. Is it emotion? I always say the people that run it like emotion, they're not making a business decision. The people that make a business decision do it better, and they get going.
So when you look at that, and and you talk about how our entire show here is potentially converting people. Mm-hmm. And I think I just came to the realization that there's probably less converting happening than we
Yes.
originally thought.
Yeah.
But the message is still going to hold true because it's going to apply in small pieces. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to think of the farm that my in-laws have. And this will be a true test to see if they listen or not. But there will be times around the shop to where the employee attitude is what's going to break next. Mm-hmm. Instead of what could we do to prevent something from breaking down?
Preventative maintenance.
Yeah.
Yep.
What that type of a mentality is something that is probably dictated by the owner of the business or the farm. Mm-hmm. As to how do you get employees or staff, let's use Hope Church for an example. Mm-hmm. I would argue that that's a very abundant mindset.
Yeah.
What do you think from a leadership perception
Mm-hmm.
has helped contribute that?
Yeah. Faith. We rely on the Spirit. We faithfully walk forward in what God is calling us to do with a joyful attitude. Is that always easy? No. We work with people all day long, and people are not perfect.
Sure. Absolutely.
So certainly we run into tension and we run into struggle all the time. It's part of a life of faith. But at the end of the day, in the beginning of the day, there is a joyful attitude that we walk forward in what we are being called to do, powered by something greater than ourselves.
Right. And that's where that gratitude journal can help. If you can start your day off with positive things, then you can start off with a positive attitude that hopefully then feeds out to the people that are around you. Like you said, be the thermostat and work towards that. I'm reflecting on a couple of things that, what I struggle with. And one of the things that I personally did is I don't celebrate. I don't get, my wife's famous for telling me that I don't get too high and I don't get too low.
Sure.
Which is good because I can protect myself.
It's easy. Yes, it's easy to maintain this balance.
But we'll have right now, as we sit, we are having the best week of downloads we have ever had.
Cool.
It's
amazing.
I haven't told anybody until now.
You haven't celebrated it, Tanner.
No, I haven't. And the other thing too, and it's a bummer for Dave and Corey is, we've had over 500,000 downloads. Mm-hmm. That's insane.
That's amazing.
When you look at the number of people that listen on a weekly basis and you put them in, they wouldn't fit in church. They wouldn't fit.
No.
And you don't celebrate that. So what about that? If someone's like me, and doesn't celebrate things, how do you fix that? Or does it need fixed?
I would say that's up to you if you want it fixed or not. What you're doing is self-protecting. Mm-hmm. Brené Brown talks about this. She has a video with Oprah. She actually says that joy is the scariest emotion in that video. And she explains that joy is a very vulnerable feeling. It's a very vulnerable emotion. So if we allow ourselves to experience really great joy, it opens ourselves up to vulnerability. Her example in the video is watching a baby sleep. And the joyful person looks at the baby sleep and says, "Oh my gosh, I'm so grateful that my child is healthy." The person that you're talking about, and maybe you can relate to this, and this would be a scarcity mindset, looks at that baby and says, "Wow, I'm so glad they're healthy. Oh, when are they going to get sick?
Right.
What if they die in their sleep?"
Sure.
She calls it dress rehearsing tragedy. And that steals joy. But experiencing that is a very vulnerable emotion. We get to decide, is it worth the vulnerability? I think celebrating 500,000 downloads is absolutely worth the vulnerability of big time celebrating that. I would have brought you a cake had I known. Like, that is so cool. Because what is there to lose?
Right.
What if there's 10 downloads next week?
Yeah.
I mean,
so what?
Right.
And that's interesting because I just now reflected is we went to Farm Progress Show a couple weeks ago, and going into the event, we had a great lineup of people, guests, people that were going to come share wisdom, share their stories. And leading up to it, I prepared all that I could and had no faith in humanity. Remember saying to my wife, I can control what I can control.
Yeah.
And I'm uneasy because I don't know if any of them are going to show up. Okay, that's not the right way to look at that.
Sure. If something in your life has taught you to look at it that way, like the world has taught you to maybe believe people aren't going to show up.
Yeah.
And that's not your fault, but being aware of that and saying, that's not right.
Right. So I take the extra steps.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
put extra work on myself. Like I sent you an email this morning.
Yes, you did.
Just not that I didn't think you were going to come.
Right,
But
just
if
double
she
check.
emails me back one more time within a couple hours of the podcast,
Yeah.
I'll feel better about.
Even after I checked in yesterday.
Yes, absolutely. But I know I'm not the only one that's doing this.
Right.
I know that there's people that feel like they're constantly let down by others. And that's not the way to look at it. Is you have to approach it as, I've got a great opportunity to talk to Pastor Ashley today. This is going to be a fantastic show. Get psyched, be super pumped for it. I mean, I think our listeners can tell that there's different energy in this show than some of our other ones, but it resonates deep down with me. And this is a vulnerability that I'm sharing.
Yes.
And I hope our listeners can see some of that as well.
Yeah.
But
And there's nothing wrong with you. Let me go on record saying that.
thanks.
For anybody who can relate
I'll
to
need you to tell my
these
wife
things.
when we get done, right?
For anybody who can relate to these things, it doesn't mean there's something wrong with you. It means the world has taught you to put up those barriers.
Yep.
And we get to be aware of them or not
That's
aware
the
of them.
culture that we talked about right away in the beginning.
Yeah.
And that's interesting. So I'm going to go back to two things that former guests have said. And I don't know if Zoe, because I know she listens all the time, if she realized when she said this, when did we interview Zoe? Was that February?
I think
March?
so. Yeah.
I don't know if she realized when she said this that we would use it as often as we do, but we always ask what the best piece of advice you ever have been given questions. So you're going to get that question.
Okay.
You just got it earlier than most get it.
Yeah.
But Zoe's answer was, it will always be okay. It always works out.
Yeah.
Everything will be fine. You know, I keep adding words to her answer, but that was her concept. She's a young female farmer taking over for her dad, and her dad said, don't worry about it. I mean, worry about it, but don't worry about it. You know, it'll be just fine. And then the same thing, Elaine Fraze, we talk succession planning with a lot. She said, celebrate the wins. You know, it's kind of what we were talking about. So as you think about the answer to that question about what the best advice you've ever been given is, I'll summarize what we talked about today.
Okay.
So we were here with Pastor Ashley Lentz, not Pashley. Should be her new name. Pashley Lentz.
I love it.
From Hope Church in Ankeny. We're here talking about the difference between scarcity mindset and an abundant mindset. We weren't originally thinking that this was maybe the minority. We were talking culturally, that the way culture is set today is it's potentially an obsession with the lack of something. Usually your time or your money, something that doesn't allow you to focus and allow you to move forward could potentially be harmful to you. Could be something that we need to do. It's not talking about chasing something to improve yourself or because you're competitive. It's done by fear. So scarcity is when it is something that is in fear. You can put mitigants in place. You can put fail-safe, buy your insurance. We're not telling you to stop insuring your house, that you all of a sudden think, oh, this is never going to burn down. That's not the point. It's more of a cultural shift. It's stealing joy. That's probably one of the red flags. It doesn't mean that you're wired wrong. Doesn't mean that what you're doing is not right. It just means that it's something that you could potentially do a little bit better. Well, how can we do this better, Dave? Think of the positives. Have a positive attitude. Identify the things that are going well. Write down, gratitude journal. Create win-win situations. Put yourself around people that have the mindset that you're looking to glean. Be the thermostat. If you can't find the people that are what you admire or what you want to be, maybe you can help change or at least guide the people that are around you, and train your brain to recognize the possibilities. What are the benefits, Dave? I would say overall, if you are less stressed, happier, you're going to have more energy, you're going to be better focused, which is going to help you be more productive. What does more productivity lead to? More profitability. So when you look at that, potentially take a look at what's going on around you. What can you do to better yourself? And it sounds like a lot of this revolves around faith.
Do I get to challenge people?
You get to challenge. So it revolves around faith, whether that's faith in something better, faith in the Lord, faith in general, typically accompanies the abundant mindset which we've identified for the most part seems to be positive.
I was totally wrong on what I thought about a scarcity mindset was when I started.
We've evolved, haven't we?
We've evolved for the past,
I know that people will click on this episode and they will think the same thing.
Yep.
So while you think of your challenge, Pastor Ashley, what is the best advice you've ever been given?
It's a really, really hard question as I thought about it. When I was getting married at a bridal shower, people wrote little pieces of advice on little cards for me. And one of them was from my best friend's mom, and it said, don't sweat the small stuff, because really it's all small stuff. And that's biblical. Don't worry about tomorrow, for tomorrow is going to take care of itself. I think that's probably the best advice I've ever been given. Honestly, it's all small stuff. In the grand scheme of life, eternity, don't sweat the things, because they're just things.
That's good. I don't think anybody said that yet. And we've done quite a few of these interviews. Dave, you got a challenge ready?
I got 2.
Okay. And I might have a third. We'll see how well you do.
The first one is to all of our listeners. And when what I wrote down is, I don't have enough of. That's a scarcity mindset. Mm-hmm. So if I don't have enough of what Pastor Ashley told us, or Pashley, she said that you need to count your many blessings. So my challenge is, think of all the good things that you have. Good family, good health, good etc., and tell somebody about it. Not just think about it. I'm going to say tell somebody about it. Tell your wife, tell your family. You know what? We got it pretty good. We got a dang nice house. We got it pretty good. We got 4 kids. They're all in college. Something. So I want you to tell somebody about it. Now, second challenge is specifically for Corey Hillebo.
Yes.
Corey Hillebo.
You're going to test to see if he listens.
Have been
to the whole way
working
to the
on
end of
buying
this.
a farm, and he sent me a text message the other day. He's like, doggone. He's like, I just don't even have a chance as a young guy to buy any of these farms. These big guys keep screwing me over.
It said just like that?
Just like that. That's what he said. He's got a mindset that it's not going to happen. Mm-hmm. I'm telling you, you got the best doggone farmland realtor in the state. It's going to happen.
Yes.
And the best bankers
Have
in the
a
room.
positive attitude, Corey.
Team effort.
Yeah.
I like the positive attitude. The last piece that I'm going to add as the challenge is, I want you to start calling people out. And if my brother-in-law is listening, this is directed at him and people like him.
Man, we're just calling people out on this podcast.
We got talked about inaction before. Just never again. We are giving actionable items.
Listeners are going to stop listening.
I don't think so. All right. If you hear this, if you see this, take a step to provide perspective. You know, I'm not telling them to call them out and tell them they're dumb. They're not doing it right.
Right. We're not being judgmental.
No, we want to frame and provide perspective. So if you hear somebody that is talking about, gosh, seems like everything breaks down and we can't get anything done. Well, we did cover 60 acres today. Or, you know, we've got a rain day. We got rain in the forecast. We can work on it then. You just try to help them reframe what they're thinking. And maybe down the road, you'll see a snowball effect of helping the people around you have an abundant mindset.
So you're not saying call people out. What you're saying is be the positive attitude of
Be the
people
thermostat.
that they hang
I
around.
love that. I
Yeah.
love the way that what Ashley said.
All right. Pashley or Ashley?
I'm gonna every Sunday now. You know what? That's
It's Pashley.
I'm on
you doing,
board. I'm
Pashley?
on board. I like it.
that's great.
Fantastic even.
Is there anything that you would like to tell the listeners before we sign off?
No, I just remember to dream. It's not a bad thing. Yep.
That's great. I didn't think we'd be able to talk for an hour on the scarcity mindset, but I'm glad that we did.
We came in abundantly.
We did.
Yeah.
That's not true because I had the mindset that we wouldn't be able to talk for an hour.
We're shifting your mindset as we
are.
have this conversation.
We are.
That's fantastic.
You have a thermostat. She's right there.
She is. We're going to keep Pashley around.
All right.
Listeners, we want to keep you around too. So hope you enjoyed this show. If you have any topic suggestions, farmforprofitllc@gmail.com. But until next time, have a good one.
Remember, if you aren't farming for profit, you won't be farming for long.